you have a look at these driver boards, you can see that they're just one of the L298 drivers.
298, 297 combo.
Dual channel?
I think we've got a couple of amps on it, but if you start running it at that, things get bloody warm. I wouldn't do that. And the PWM board, I mean that's just some tip 121s. It's all relatively low tech and deliberately so. The lower technology we use, the greater the chances of people actually getting hold of the stuff.
Keep it simple, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This one's possibly a bit. There is some stuff in there a bit more complicated than it should be. Some of my opto drivers are on strip board because you can only get Z1901 opto sensors over here unless you go to expensive places like.
Surplustronics should have them.
Yes, Surplustronics have them, but they're 4-pin optos, and the ones that of course they specified in the States when Zach made the boards are the 5-pin optos with like the opto transistor with the 3 pins coming out, and can't get those here.
You do the DigiKey though, you can get just about everything you want.
Yes, you can. You have to order it in.
That's no problem.
Yes, it is. It is if you're in Cuba.
We're not in
DigiKey won't sell to you if you're in Cuba, and they won't sell to you if you're in Iran.
Oh, that makes sense. But most of the time, DigiKey does pretty well.
You can only get stuff from DigiKey if you're in a US friendly country, and I want everybody to be able to make RepRaps, not just people in US friendly countries.
That'd be why DigiKey asks you what you're making every time you put a large order in.
Yeah, I'm making a thermonuclear device. What are you doing?
You do an order and they ask you what you're building, what it's used for.
And keeping you from that is up there.
So yeah, you're starting to see some boards now with microswitch stuff on them, simply because people are having difficulty getting hold of a consistent supply of opto parts. I mean, the likes of you and I will go along and rip them out of an old printer.
Yeah.
Right, but not everybody's up to that.
Floppy drive.
Yeah, floppy drives are good. But I just happen to have a load of printers, and much to my disappointment, they all have DC servos and not stepper motors. So eventually I'd like to move to DC servos because they're a heck of a lot easier to get than stepper motors. Unless somebody can tell me where I can get NEMA 23 200 stepper motors in New Zealand. No,
nobody sells them.
Problem. Yeah.
I will have a bunch in about 3 weeks' time. Not specifically, but very similar looking from Sparkfun.
I found that the best resolution and best price was from Keeling.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll be getting mine from Keeling.
Keeling?
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried getting a bunch through various suppliers in New Zealand. 3 of them, all in a row, and they all keeled over just before they supplied me.
Really?
Yeah. And it was really annoying.
What do you mean by keeled over?
Company ceased to exist.
That's what you know.
Yeah.
The worst kind of keeled over.
Yes.
Yeah, well, a lot of people know.
So this is what it makes, because this is a child machine that was made by a bigger one, by another one. It was the other one was made on a Stratasys Dimension 3D printer, and then I put that together and I printed most of the parts for this one. This is actually a grandchild part, so this is actually a part that it made itself. Because, well, the chain wasn't slack at that point, so I could run a few bits off, and I made a chain tensioner before things got out of hand. They were starting to get a bit touch and go at the end, and there was this screwdriver leading on it out there with a clamp. But that did the trick, and this thing was built and smashed by the TSA. Yes, smashed. Half the parts were destroyed. And so it's probably not the original machine in that respect. So it's sort of sometimes referred to as child and sometimes referred to as Phoenix. you can see that there's been ample use of epoxy in some places, and polymorph in others. But it still works, and like it's been busily printing out all sorts of bits. That's a new extruder that uses the Tamiya universal gear motor. And if you can...
How did you design the extruders? Did you go through lots of iterations?
yeah. There's lots of scrap PLA in a box under my workbench.
That's
I think I went through 3 or 4 before I got that. Right?
that's quite eloquent.
You got it. And you wanted an extruder, didn't you?
Yeah, extruder set of parts.
That's yours. That's yours. That's yours. And that's yours. You can. This is PLA, and I use PLA because it melts at a reasonably low temperature, but you can hold boiling water in it. And it's biodegradable, and it's not made from oil. And if you're going to have machines that are going to be replicating themselves by the thousand, you want to start thinking about the environmental aspects at the get-go.
It's PLA plastic?
Yes, it stands for polylactic acid. It's made from milk waste or fermented starch. There's no starch in it.
So it's not a thermoset plastic.
Where do you get it, if you don't mind me asking?
Not at all. I get it made by a company called Imagine Plastics. The smallest batch I can get it made in is 30 kilos. So I'm quite happy to divvy it out.
And it's poly what, I'm sorry?
Polylactic acid, PLA. Its most common use at the moment is for making strawberry punnets, you know, those little clear, and yes, so-called biodegradable containers. It is biodegradable, but you've got to heat it up to 75 Celsius before it'll biodegrade. And so if you just drop it in the ground, it won't biodegrade.
So the compost heat?
You actually have to put it in a proper compost heap, and then it'll biodegrade just fine. The other polymer we used, Kappa, that stuff I left an odd-shaped lump of lying around there. That's much more flexible. That is oil-derived, but it is biodegradable.
And it's fun to play with.
And it's fun to play with.
What's it called?
Kappa, C-A-P-A, polycaprolactone, referred to by Americans often as shape lock,
Friendly
and
plastic.
by POMs as polymorph. And
That's what you won't find it in JCAR as
yes,
polymorph.
You find it in JCAR as polymorph.
Is that the same stuff as Circletronics? It's little beads?
Those
you
little
heat
beads.
them up, mould them
yes.
up?
Yep.
So can
And
you get them in bulk?
Yes, they can. But people wonder how strong this thing is, you know. It's,
Wow.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
This is what it was, you know.
Yeah. Somebody's already uploaded a model for knuckle dusters to the site, to the Thingiverse site, you know, thingiverse.com. People are doing all sorts of things.
I think I'll machine that one out of miles too, so.
Yeah. But I think the original intent for this was to have it laser cut from sort of half-inch acrylic or something.
Oh,
Yeah. There is a fan on it. Fan is not used when using PLA because it basically goes hard quick enough. But the lower temperature plastics like
HDP.
Kappa, they take a long time to solidify because they're molten at a lower temperature. So you have to cool them between layers, otherwise you end up with this gooey puddle and not a recognisable part.